Every non-African person alive today carries the same genetic signature. A bottleneck that happened when a small group crossed out of Africa between 70,000 and 50,000 years ago. Some estimates put that group at fewer than 1,000 individuals. They walked into an unknown world without maps and never came back. But here's the question almost nobody asks. Why did they leave? Africa is enormous, containing every climate zone on Earth. So what pushed them to abandon it and keep walking until their descendants reached every corner of the planet? Between 300,000 and 50,000 years ago, Africa experienced dramatic climate swings, wet periods followed by severe droughts that turned lush grasslands into desert. A study published in Nature found migration occurred in waves roughly every 20,000 years, triggered by shifts in Earth's axial wobble that temporarily opened green corridors through the Sahara and Arabian Peninsula. When rainfall came, vegetation followed. When animals followed, humans followed them. Migration wasn't a decision, it was a response. The Sahara Desert, the largest hot desert on Earth, was not always a desert. During Green Sahara events, it transformed into grassland and savanna dotted with lakes and rivers. Hippos, crocodiles, and giraffes once roamed freely across what is now sand. These green periods created corridors between Africa and the rest of the world. When corridors opened, humans moved through them. When they closed, populations were cut off. Separation led to adaptation, and eventually to the extraordinary diversity of human populations alive today. Homo sapiens didn't leave Africa once. The evidence points to multiple waves. The earliest confirmed exit comes from a fossil jawbone at Mislia Cave in Israel, dated to approximately 177,000 years ago. Stone tools in India, Yemen, and the UAE dated between 70,000 and 80,000 years ago suggest earlier dispersals too. But these groups died out or were absorbed without leaving detectable genetic traces. The migration every non-African person today descends from happened around 50,000 to 70,000 years ago. One of many attempts that finally succeeded. The groups dispersing after 50,000 years ago had something earlier migrants lacked: dramatic ecological flexibility. By 70,000 years ago, humans were inhabiting forests, coastlines, and arid semi-deserts, habitats they hadn't consistently exploited before. This niche broadening meant surviving in environments radically different from the African savanna. When they crossed into Eurasia, they adapted rather than collapsed. That adaptability, more than any specific route or climate window, may be the deepest reason this migration succeeded where earlier ones hadn't. Africa was not the only place with humans when the migrants arrived. Neanderthals had lived across Europe and Western Asia for over 200,000 years. Denisovans occupied parts of Asia. These weren't primitive cave dwellers. They were capable humans who had survived ice ages. The encounters were not purely competitive. Modern humans interbred with Neanderthals, and most people of non-African ancestry carry roughly 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA today. Melanesian and Aboriginal Australian ancestry carries Denisovan DNA as well. The out-of-Africa migration was not an invasion. It was a series of complex encounters that changed every group involved. The evidence comes from 3 independent sources. Fossil records show the oldest modern human remains in Africa, with progressively younger remains further away. Archaeological evidence shows distinctly African origins spreading outward. And genetics is the most powerful. Every non-African population shows dramatically reduced diversity compared to African populations. A direct fingerprint of the small founding group that kept walking. The humans who left Africa 50,000 to 70,000 years ago were not explorers with a mission. They were following resources, fleeing drought, or drifting through corridors the climate briefly opened. They had no idea they were populating a planet. Their descendants would reach Australia, cross into the Americas, and eventually touch every continent except Antarctica. The entire population outside Africa, billions of people, traces back to a group small enough to fit in a single village. They left because the land pushed them out. They stayed everywhere because they were extraordinary at adapting. And the fact that you exist wherever you are right now is proof that the walk worked.